anthem is done, and we're about to get started. We got to get into this quickly, Callan, as these two teams are going to get started in a hurry. There's not going to be a lot of time in between. We got the compulsory event consisting of 4 different heats, including the acro, pyramid, toss, and tumbling events. During each heat, both teams will come out one at a time and complete the same skills, regardless of what division the program is. Division I for Baylor, Division III for the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor. They all compete the same skills. Start value for the heat is the same, 10.0 for all teams. They'll be judged on a basis of their execution and scored accordingly. As this is, we talked about, going to kind of show the whole meet. Starting off is going to be Aaliyah Thomas, Addie Grandy, Kinsey Shilhab, and Morgan Brown on one side of the acro. On the other side of the acro is going to be Emily Bott, Meredith Wells, Cassie Karnbach, Daani Branch, and Mariah Polk. As we're about to get this started, Callan, what does it feel like as you're about to head out for the very first event of the first match of the season?
It's always super exhilarating, so I know these girls have a lot of nerves in their body right now, but it's always great to get that first skill out, and they're about to do that right now, and it's all about to get started, so I know they're excited.
And I want to correct, it's Deani Branch. I apologize. Got a little bit hung up on the apostrophe there. Deani Branch. All right, as both sides move in to the initial with the back tuck. Really nice on the back tuck. Not a lot of movement. Straight up and down as they got into position. Going with the rear mount now into the dangle. Dangle into the straddle. Nice position, trying to hold tight. And into that inversion. And now going unsupported. Boy, really tight from both sides. Not a lot of wobble. And
very solid.
To be as expected, pretty much basically in sync.
Yes, sir.
Now this is a really difficult skill. We're going to take a look at it in the replay. Boy, really nice from the Bears with that full twist off. And that's such a difficult skill that seemed really simple. They go up with one foot, have to switch off to the other. That means that 6 hands on an ankle have to let go at the same time and grab at the same time.
Yes, sir. As in the top up there has to switch their feet. So there's a lot of different moving parts, and they did it very well, though. So it hit very solidly.
And so taking a look at the replay now, as we've got the big screen in the Mayburn Campus Center, and you see this nice setup as both go straight up at the same time, and really good height on that dismount with that rear tuck. And then following into the remount, here's the straddle from the dangle.
One of the things here, you want to really get those legs straight, parallel, maybe even above. Even on that popover, you want it to stay up at that parallel level. And so they did a very good job of that and staying stable the entire time.
I mean, you really can see from this angle the lack of wobble, maybe just a little bit from the right side of your screen. But boy, a really good job making sure it didn't turn into more from Cassie Karnbach. And there was the transition we talked about, really easy for the Bears.
Yes, sir. And they did a really good job of squaring up at the end. Great ending to their first event here.
Ways the Bears do a great job to start off. For the Crusaders on the floor, it's going to be number 2, Katie Breckler, number 5, Maya Manka, number 38, Morgan Webb, number 19, Sarah Williamson, number 16, Kristen Johnson, number 13, Valeria Guevara, number 20, Natalie Posednik, number 9, Jenna Hall, and number 28, Chloe Drew. Boy, as here come the Crusaders, they're going to do the exact same thing you just saw from the Bears. So Williamson is going to be on your left, Hall on your right, Hall on your right, Williamson on your left. So setting up, you're gonna see this same mount. Podsednik and Webb, boy, Hall and Williamson really good tops in this Division III. Boy, also just as good from the Crusaders on the timing. Breckler and Podsednik now, your bases into the dangle. And look at Williamson here on your left. Boy, way above parallel, so perfect. Now into this straight up and down. They're going to lose the support. Boy, really good positioning from both tops.
Very good timing there. The tops had their chest up on that landing, and there was no movement.
Now comes the switch to the other leg. Little bit of a wobble on the right side, but good from the Crusaders.
A little bit of movement there on the right, but overall, very solid performance for both groups out there.
Yeah, really looked like the only difference between the two was kind of on that very last element. One, just a little bit of the bobble from Hall, and I say Hall, there's 4 or 5 ladies out there with hands on Hall, but a little bit of a wobble there, and then both maybe a little bit under rotation. I couldn't quite tell.
Yeah, whenever there's a lot going on, it's hard to sometimes diagnose it. We can watch on this replay, but it looked like on their dip, they just started kind of drifting to the side a little bit, and again, that happens. There's a lot of different moving parts, so it's hard to diagnose where anything could be stemming from, and it just led to a little bit of a either under or over rotation. I think one of Jenna Hall's legs got caught up on a shoulder of some sort. So we'll take a look at it here.
Well, it's here, and this inversion looks so good. There's Kristen Johnson right in front of you. Johnson with a Achilles tear last year has returned for her senior year. She's excited to be back.
Yeah, she's
and so
really
now
good.
we move into that final element, and we're going to see Hall right in front of you. Just a little bit of a bobble, but really pretty clean on the side. And now as they're going to twist off, we're going to get just a little bit of movement. And the Crusaders do a pretty good job in making that look real nice.
Yeah, they definitely did a good job of hiding any type of additional movement from the bases in, so that was a good adjustment there for them.
Move into the compulsory pyramid. Jordan Grundler, Levi McDonald, Deani Branch, Mariah Polk, Gianna Cameron, Addie Grandy, Raquel Jeffries, Meredith Wells, Morgan Brown, Gigi Rendino, Casey Schillab, and Cassie Karnbach on the floor as we've got synchro pyramid. So we're going to have 3 levels. You've got those bases with the thigh stand. And then your mid base, number 40 and number 49, Meredith Wells and Levi McDonald, as they're going to move into this dangle with the straddle. Boy, really nice. Boy, that's a couple of great straddles from the Bears. A flip off, really nice.
Really well done from the Bears in that heat. I will say on the dismount, there was a little bit of a timing, but overall their positionings were perfect in my eyes. The straddles looked amazing. So it was a really great job for them, really great start for the pyramids.
Yeah, they really did look amazing on that straddle. As you kind of saw, the way in which height and the straightness of the legs plays out gives it a look, and really makes it obvious too. I think that's one of the interesting things about the dangle with the straddle is you can really tell when somebody's got that really quality straddle. There's not a way to fake that. I always think about if I sit down on the floor and just tries to keep my legs straight and lift it off of the floor just about 6 inches, that hurts and my hip flexor starts cramping up. So to watch these ladies as they're 10 feet in the air is pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah.
So you see a really nice showing from the Bears. For the Crusaders, in the pyramid, on the floor is going to be number 9, Jenna Hall, Maya Manka, Natalie Podsednik, Madison Leibarger, Madison Malesic, and Emily Kithil. In the other pyramid is going to be Sarah Williamson, Katie Breckler, Kristen Johnson, Morgan Webb, Alexis Kokel, Kylie Jones, and Valeria Guevara. As the Crusaders now just waiting to come on out. The timing a little bit interesting here just because with the Acro, there's 3 things to judge. With the pyramid, there's only 1. So as they're a little bit quicker with the replay, obviously,
yes.
Or how long the replay took. Now the Crusader is going to take the floor. 1 pyramid on each side. Again, you just saw the Bears. And the Crusaders are going to be doing the exact same thing. You're going to have the same 2 tops in Williamson and Hall. Middle bases, Breckler and Monka. Set up really solid from each side. Really good job. Very stable. And a nice dismount from the Crusaders. Boy, Crusaders doing a really good job on the pyramid.
Yep, that was really great from them. They had really strong bases at the very bottom, holding on to those mids, and those mids made a really good job of hiding any sort of movement as the tops were getting put up there. So I would say that they just had a very strong compulsory pyramid event.
When you talk about the mids hiding any movement, we talk about this quite a bit, is that movement accentuates as it goes higher. And so a small movement from the bases turns into a larger movement from the mids, turns into a huge movement from the tops. And so
Yes.
having, one, steady bases, but also really strong mids. As you can tell, those lats are firing.
Oh,
the
yeah.
hands are actually inside of the shoulders, which puts you in a little bit of an unstable position.
Yep.
And so to hold someone above your head with your hands that close is impressive.
Yes, very much so. It takes a lot of core strength, like you said, a lot of lat strength. And so those girls, the mids, they did a very good job.
As we're going to move into the third heat, which is the toss heat, two groups going to take the mat, and they've got a tuck toss synchronized. So looking not only for execution, but looking for timing as well. Emily Bott, Meredith Wells, Gianna Cameron, Ellie Lanive, Addie Grandy, Peyton Washington, Deani Branch, Morgan Brown, Kinsey Shilham, Nova Schmidt, and Aaliyah Kalustian. Setup so important here in the toss. Back tuck, and I'm no Judge Callan, but that was pretty good.
That was very, very good. One of the main things you want to see always from those tops is that they don't throw their heads back as they're taking off. And I saw both of their faces very clearly before they tucked their feet over their head, and then shooting their legs straight back at the end and opening up right before they get caught. And both girls did that very well and synchronized. So
Boy,
they did
really
well.
great job from the Bears. And the synchronization so good. In slow-mo, you can't even really see much of a difference.
Oh,
So
yeah.
really good from the Bears. For the Crusaders, they're going to come out and try and do the exact same thing. One of the tossing groups is going to be Kristen Johnson, Emily Kithill, Natalie Podsednik, and Madison Malesic, with Jenna Hall being the top. On the other side would be Morgan Webb, Hannah Ross, Katie Breckler, Valeria Guevara, and Chloe Drew is the top. Maya Manka is going to be your counter. So we see a different top in Chloe Drew, but Drew, one of the frequently used tops for the Crusaders, especially in these tosses. She's so good in the air.
Oh, yeah.
So Hall on the left, Drew on the right. Good job from the Crusaders.
Yes, that was very good. Another thing to look for is always making sure that the height of their tucks are the same. And I would say that that was very, very similar, if not the same. And they did a really great job with that.
So one thing I want to take a look at, maybe just one tiny little step back on the right side from the Crusaders. That's going to be the side nearest to you. Not much at all, but maybe just a tad. As you see, a good hollow position from Jenna Hall. And maybe, and honestly may not have even been much of a movement backwards. May have just been the bases setting up for a good catch. I might have just been,
Yeah.
you know me, I try not to be too overcritical. I have no basis for being overcritical. And here's the deal, is I'm like the world's largest nerd fan of Acro and Tumbling. And so, all of these girls, I get so impressed just watching this. I'm such a fan, and really I'm a hype man.
Oh, yeah.
All I want to do is just talk about how amazing everyone is here.
Most definitely.
As we move into the compulsory tumbling, for Baylor, number 1, Sarah Kerr, number 4, Lexi Lannon, number 7, Emily Bott, number 9, Peyton Washington, number 24, Mariah Polk, number 36, Nova Schmidt, number 43, Layla Alexander, number 54, Aaliyah Kalustian. This is going to be each team's doing the same, and it's been the same for several years now, so you get a chance to see the progression over time. So with the back tuck, looking to stick it on the landing, really nice from the Bears. Into the toe touch back tuck that requires so much explosion and balance, because going from one explosive movement into the next is so tough. We'll talk about that in a minute. Into the back handspring back tuck. As the Bears are going to move now into their tumbling pass. Round off, back handspring, back layout. Wow. I'll tell you, Callan, from a synchronization perspective, that was perfect.
Oh, most definitely. They did a very good job of keeping that synchronized element in there, which is what the judges are looking for. They're also looking for sticks in those landings. So any type of foot movement after a landing, they'll take a deduction for, but they kept that very minimal as well. So I think the girls did very, very well.
As you saw, I mean, if there was one hop, there was one tiny little hop in the first back tuck.
And that's what coaches a lot of times will tell their athletes. It's better to take a hop than a step. And so in these instances, the Baylor Bears did a really good job of hiding any types of instability by just taking those hops when necessary.
Absolutely. And really, you see a lot of, while they're very similar sizes, they're still different body types. I think sometimes the television doesn't do it justice to how different everyone actually is. And so having everyone sync up like this is pretty impressive. Leg height, torso height, all of it.
Yeah.
Well, and look at that. The feet come over at the same time. This is my favorite thing to watch in slow-mo because when they do it well, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Moving on for the Crusaders in the tumbling is going to be number 9, Jenna Hall, number 3, Abby Coyle, number 19, Sarah Williamson, number 22, Casey Hedrick, number 28, Chloe Drew, number 33, Mikaelin Fry, number 35, Riley Gray, and number 50, Alexis Kokel. As this was was this the first time that you got on the floor each heat last year? Or were you in one of the Acros?
I was in one of the Acros,
okay.
yeah. So I was able to kind of get my feet wet a little bit before I would come out for compulsory tumbling, it was my favorite compulsory event. So it was a lot of fun. It's always exhilarating to start sticking those landings, and you just hear it in the crowd, and it's a lot of fun. The girls are out there cheering you on. Everyone's in unison. It's just a great time.
Well, and the first tumbling runs of the competition are always fun.
Most definitely.
Because you have it's still precision, but this really begins to show some incredible athleticism. As I'm not entirely sure that I could keep good position and do a front somersault on the mat, much less a back tuck or a toe tuck. Well, I couldn't stand up and touch my toes, so that's also impressive. As the Crusaders are getting ready to get going here in just a moment, as obviously, timing with judging is a little bit because the more elements you have to judge, the longer that it's going to take. As we get the thumbs up from Coach Scotto, the 2024 Coach of the Year.
Oh, yeah.
Don't want to downplay that. That's an impressive accomplishment. Is now coming onto the floor of the Crusaders. Lots of new faces here in the compulsory acro.
Most definitely, yeah. Last year, this was a very senior-heavy event, so.
Boy, really nice. Stuck well across the board for the Crusaders. Now into that toe touch. Here comes the explosive element into the back tuck. Boy, really a nice job again for the Crusaders. Back handspring, back tuck. Good job from the Crusaders. Now moving into the tumbling pass. Round off, back handspring, back layout. Good job from the Crusaders. Look like, so there might have been some synchronization issues that actually might have started from the very beginning, not necessarily in the middle of the tumbling pass, but right at the beginning.
Yeah, so especially with that last tumbling pass, it can happen right off the bat if you don't start taking that first step before that run. At the same time as your other teammates on the mat, it'll automatically put you a little bit behind, so that's where you have to start using some of your peripheral vision and looking at other people through the sides of your eyes as you're tumbling, and it takes a lot of adjustments in the air to try to get back on track. So they did a good job, though, keeping it all as synchronized as possible. Their landings, I will say, were very great. At the very end, there was a couple steps, but overall, like I said, those hops instead of steps were very beneficial for them.
So as we're going to move out of the compulsory and into the acro event now, the acro event consists of 3 different heats. First heat is called the 5 element, second heat called the 6 element, and the last heat is called the 7 element, as they are labeled for the amount of elements that are in each of the run. In these events, elements will count. For example, like a walk-in would be considered 1 element, a half round, and then another element, a tuck-off, would be considered another. And so, Callan, you were obviously a big part of the acros. We'll certainly rely on your expertise in the acros as we're starting to tabulate scores across the compulsory event. You saw as Callan was kind of breaking down the replay for you, waiting on the final tabulation of the scores. And going to kind of see here that, this is typically a place, Callan, where you at UMHB, this was a space when you guys actually, the compulsory and the acro, you guys used to make up ground on some of the colleges that maybe had a little bit better advantage in terms of tumbling and toss. The University of Mary Hardin-Baylor being Division III, a little bit limited in terms of practice time compared to Division I, Division II, and also very limited in terms of athletic scholarships. There's no athletic scholarships at Division III, and so all Division III teams dealing, or I say dealing, that's it's part of Division III, so all athletics scholarships not available at Division III. And so you guys really use the first 3 elements of a competition to gain a lot of ground.
Yeah.
And so we're going to see if UMHB is able to do something similar, maybe taking a lead or even holding close to Baylor.
Yes.
As we move into this this Acro events. So tell me something as we move into the Acros, and you're going to have basically, I don't want to call them 2-person pyramids. That's breaking it down two you're going to have 2 layers of people.
Yes.
Coming out of compulsory, moving into the Acro element. Is it a relief to get to the Acro? Are you nervous? Is it building the tension? How does it go?
I feel like Acro, the Acro event as a whole, it's always one of those things that can be really nerve-wracking if you let it get to you in that way. So a lot of these girls that are going out and taking the floor, they have to kind of reset their minds and trust their training and know that the reps they put in practice are going to pay off in front of a crowd. And that's what a lot of the girls do. A lot of them treat it a lot less stressful and make it a lot more fun and make it a lot less of a nerve-wracking event, and they end up doing very well with that aspect, because this is one of those things where people are in the air, and if someone goes up, they could come down, and so you have to kind of reset that your brain and your mindset in order to take it as easy as possible.
As we're moving into the scores, compulsory acro for Baylor 9.350, UMHB a 9.300, compulsory pyramid Baylor 9.250. UMHB 9.550. In the compulsory toss, Baylor 9.850. And UMHB 9.700. And in the final element, the tumbling, Baylor 8.650. And UMHB 7.800. So we see a little bit of separation in the tumbling moving into the acro. So Baylor takes the lead early on in the competition with a total of 37.100 to UMHB 36.350. And moving into the acro, so now in compulsory, everything was a 10-point start value. Now, start values are determined on the difficulty of the skill, but with these 2 high-level programs, you're going to see 10s across the board here for all 3. The first one being the 5-element, the second being the 6-element synchronized, and the third being the 7-element. As we're going to set it up for the Bears in the first 5-element heat, number 14, Addie Vazzosi, number 47, Ellie Lanive, and your counter is going to be number 53, Bailey Bond. As we're just going to have 2 athletes on the floor here for this 5-element. And you tend to see this, we see this with Baylor. Baylor tends to send one group out, one group of 2 out for their 5-element. And I got to tell you, I've always enjoyed the look of it because they're so good.
Baylor scored a 9.700, bringing their total to 37.55.
Okay, so there was a scoring correction in the compulsory pyramid heat. Baylor with a score of 9.700, bringing their total to 37.550. So they gained almost a half a point in that correction. As we move into this 5-element acro, and I got to tell you, Callan, I was watching this earlier, and I was blown away. You know, you're used to seeing Bailey Humphrey and see her do incredible things. Let me tell you something. Baylor's full of incredible athletes, and I think you're about to see one here.
Oh, yeah.
In Lanive.
They have great depth on their team, so it's exciting to watch their acro.
And there's the inverted portion. Boy, into the inversion, straight into the dangle. So they're going to set up once more, maybe just a little, came out of it a little bit. They still have the clock running, though. They've got plenty of time, as they still have 18 seconds to get all of their elements. Boy, nice. 9 seconds left on the clock. Boy, really good there.
There we go. That seems like that was what they were intending to do on that first run, and they made up for it. They still got their 5 elements in time, and still kept very composed as they came back out and did the exact same thing they were supposed to do. Still within the time limit, so they didn't get a deduction from that. And I feel like that's just one of those things that it's the first acro event of the year. They have so much room for improvement, and to shake that off and continue moving on.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time in acro. Nothing's going to be perfect. I mean, you know, there's a possible 110 points, and nothing is ever perfect.
Yep.
And so how do you rebound from some of these struggles? I think what you're going to see here is they just never quite get into position for that first inversion.
Yeah.
And it kind of throws off everything from there.
Yeah. Again, like I said in the beginning, I mean, this is one of those events that you have to trust your training, and it's one of those that you don't want to be too cautious, but you also don't want to go too hard. So you have to find that sweet spot in the middle, and it seemed like right off the bat there she might not have, again, it could be either person, and just with getting up to that vertical handstand shape, just wasn't able to get to that point like she did in that second part, which it's so solid now that she's up there. And so I'm glad that they were able to, you know, compose themselves and come back and do it again, and it was done very, very well.
Yes, it was. And this movement from the inversion right into that straddle is really impressive. Talk about the shoulder strength that's necessary, and that to move your body weight around your shoulders and stay stable.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, okay, so you gave me a really great term earlier. I'm very ground down. So I really enjoy watching these bases. Here's the thing. Think about how long Leneve had to hold up Vizozzi the entire time. I mean, she's sitting there, and basically she is having to stay solid and never lose her form. It was kind of interesting because typically what we see the base doing some movement while the top is trying to hold their form, especially in some of the tosses and the acros.
Yeah.
Here we saw it the other way around. The base has to stay still.
Yeah.
You can watch her as they move into this second one. She's going to get in that position right there, and she's not going to move anymore. And so this was about an 18-second skill that they hold, and she's going to stay there the whole time. Shoulders on fire, lats. I say on fire. Mine would be on fire. These are incredible athletes.
Yeah. And also giving props to that top up there. I've never seen anyone hold that kind of position in the air, and she did it with ease. And I try things like that on the ground, just holding handstands in my free time, and I can't hold it like that on the ground, and needless to say, on top of someone in their hands. So
for the Crusaders, we've got 3 seniors going to be taking the floor. Number 19, Sarah Williamson. Number 16, Kristen Johnson. Number 38, Morgan Webb. So here we see one of the strengths of the Crusaders. We've got a very strong base and a great top. A lot of experience on the floor from these two. They worked together for the last several years. So into the mount. And a really nice half round. That's a more difficult skill than I think people realize.
Oh, most definitely.
And into just a strict press. Williamson at the top with a 360 off, and a really nice job from the Crusaders. We've got one more element. You're going to see Johnson is going to basically just throw Williamson as just a little bit of a step and down. And the Crusaders finished it off. So nice job as Webb and Williamson and Johnson getting things started off for the Crusaders in the acro.
Yeah.
And really nice with maybe just one little bobble there right at the end, which, again, though, to be expected at this point.
Most definitely. It's still so early in the season, and so these little hiccups that happen are definitely things that they have so much room and time to get in the gym and really focus on those things and those aspects. It's really funny, though, the beginning part with that strict press, all of that looked so great. It was just at the very, very end. So just to stay focused and stay, right there in the moment throughout the entirety of the skill and the event is very important.
So taking a look here at the replay, so we're going to see just a little bit as Johnson pushes Williams, and you see that top leg as it's going over. It goes just a little bit far over.
Yeah.
And obviously, not being in on the floor in the moment, sometimes it's difficult to tell. I'm sure the coaching staff can see exactly what's going on.
Most definitely.
But, you know, you never know with positioning. And I think that's a part of this sport is because it is a team sport. This is not just an individual gymnastic sport. So when something goes wrong, there is the team element of how is it that we correct this? How is it that we make the adjustments?
Yeah.
And recover from it as well. As you know, you saw Webb really do a good job hanging on to her position, trying not to take another step.
I was going to say, even Sarah Williamson on the top, she did a very good job of just staying as tight as possible because easily she could have just bailed off the back and called it a day, but she did very good.
Absolutely. As the Bears come out for the 6-element sink, Aaliyah Thomas, Addie Grandy, Morgan Brown, Jordan Grundler, and in the second grouping, Peyton Washington, Bailey Vaughn, Meredith Wells, Maddie Jensen, and your counter is going to be Mariah Polk. Another 10.0 run from the Bears. 6-element sink. Boy, and a really nice toss up into a heel pinch. And there's that strict press from the Bears. Nice dismount moving into a second grouping as two completely different tops. Impressive here for the Bears.
Yeah.
Boy, and that's really nice at half spin. And then we're going to go into the inversion here. Boy, as they jump off into the inversion. Oh, boy, what a great job. Okay.
That was really, really great from the Bears.
I want to make sure that we point out Morgan Brown. Incredible strength at the end as Morgan Brown was able to hold the top, the body weight was starting to shift away.
Most definitely,
The more that body weight of the top gets away from the center of gravity, boy, that gets really tough to maintain positioning. And she didn't move her feet. Her shoulders shifted to stay under it, but boy, she did a great job.
Yeah, most definitely. In those moments, it's so easy to want to take a step, but she did very good of just finessing the situation and just adjusting where her weight was in regards to the ground. So she did really great hiding that.
Really nice walk in here as they get the walk in and half round all together. And they're going to adjust into this inverted position. So a handstand on top of a base, and watch here at the left side of your screen. You can see her starting to move. You see those shoulders. She kind of leans on that left leg. But boy, that was really impressive. Unfortunately, I don't think, it looks like we're using the side camera. I'd really love to see a back or the front camera to be able to see how far she was able to keep the athlete from actually moving outside of her body.
Yeah.
Boy, but talking about the strict press. We're going to talk about strict press in a minute. So now we're going to go back to UMHB.
Yes.
As on the floor is going to be Chloe Drew, Morgan Webb, and Emily Kithill. In the second grouping, Jenna Hall, Katie Breckler, Valeria Guevara, and Maya Manka is your counter. So Hall and Drew are your tops. As the Crusaders get set for this 6-element. Morgan Webb back on, but Breckler a new base. Didn't see her last time. Boy, really nice to a full extension. Boy, and a reverse half round down into that support position from the shoulders. That's something new that I haven't seen. Boy, how about the full squat from Morgan Webb? Gonna have to move into the inversion here. They're gonna step off the hands onto the shoulders. And we're going to move into the inversion supported on these other bases. And they're going to drop down between. Boy, a nice job from the Crusaders.
Yeah.
Kellen, I saw some things that I've never seen there. UMHB pulling out some brand new skills this season.
I agree. Yeah, that was very unique skill that we saw there. They started off with a walk into the top, assisted from one of the sides, and then from there held it 1-to-1. And then did the pop around, which you usually see at the shoulder level, but they brought it down to their shoulders, which is very, very unique. I have not seen that competed before. And they did a very good job with it. A little bit of a bobble on that right side, but overall, no movement from the bases, which was great.
Boy, you saw the Crusaders. Both bases kind of had to save a little bit there, but did a good job.
Oh, yeah.
You know, saving and we talked about the positioning of the tops too. With the tops, doing a good job holding their position and not bailing. You saw them both buckle just a little bit to try to make sure that they kept enough body weight far enough back to be able to stay on top. But the trust to hold your position and not just kind of bail and say, I'm 7 feet in the air, I'm going to get down, is pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah. They both did a very, very good job, tops and bases, of just knowing where each other were in the moment and adjusting from there.
So already seeing some really impressive things from these two top teams in the nation, but also seeing the room for growth as it goes. You know, nobody's ever perfect at the beginning.
Most definitely.
And so the opportunity to really see some big things from these teams is we're about to move into the 7-element acro for Baylor. You're going to have Jordan Grunler and Levy McDonald with Aaliyah Kalustian is going to be your counter. So interested to see here with Jordan Grunler, obviously the senior and is the specialist of the year in 2024. She's now paired with a redshirt freshman in Levy McDonald. So you have age and experience with some youth.
Yeah. We're about to see a very unique skill be competed. I watched it warm up on the side mat, so
I was wondering if you saw this.
Yes.
Because I'm really excited to watch this.
I am too. If you can tell, her shoes are a little bit different from the other girls, the base on the ground. And so we're about to see what that leads to.
So into this inversion, they're going to go into one hand, both hands out. Boy, Baylor loves to do this. We see it a lot. They're going to drop out of it. Well, you can feel the excitement from the Baylor sideline. They know what's coming, too, and they're excited about this. So we're talking about new elements that we haven't seen before. Baylor's going to go back into an inversion. Boy, extension from both. Really stable, as starting to see Levy with the shift. She's going to go all the way to the ground.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness, with the extension. And then she's going to spin around. And the dismount. Boy, that was beautiful.
Wow. That's all I can say. Very well done. You can tell the base, the top, everyone, their team. That was so exciting.
Boy, that was absolutely amazing. As boy, I saw a little bit of the embrace from a little bit of the embrace from McDonald and Coach Fee. That was incredible.
Yeah.
As I got to tell you, I think there was some tears of joy from McDonald. Could you imagine? You're a redshirt freshman. You're with the most dominant force in, let's call it, college athletics right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your first time on the floor, and you do something pretty special.
Very, very, very unique skill right there. Never seen it done at any level. I feel like the only time I might have seen something even like it is some type of circus post on Instagram. And so to think that this is just so controlled, so pretty, so well done, some of the best athletes in college sports doing this right here in front of us.
That positioning is amazing from both groups.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, let's face it, we're talking about McDonald, and that was incredible. But the positioning from Grunler, too, is incredible.
Most definitely.
So we're going to go to the Crusaders now with Jenna Hall, Natalie Podsednik, and Maya Manka on the floor. Katie Breckler is your counter. Boy, and there's a little bit of a psychology to this. After following that, can you just stay in your own lane and do it really? Because that was incredible to watch. Can you still now do your job?
Most definitely.
So Hall goes to full extension with Podsednik. Really good job. Manka's going to step in for some support. They're going to go into one leg support.
They all seem very comfortable out there.
They really do. A full 360. Well, this is three very experienced athletes.
Yep.
Hall, a junior. They walk into support. Half round, good half round.
Yeah, very good height on that half round. She was able to see Hall's feet right before she caught her.
Into the inverted support and out of it for the 7th element. So good job from the Crusaders.
Most definitely, especially like you said, following up on something that was just so impressive, and being able to rein it back in and do what you need to do for the team is very great from all sides of this event and from Acro as a whole. Whenever you're going back to back like that, sometimes it can get a little bit intimidating and in your head, but they did a very good job keeping that all in. So
Yeah, they really did a great job. Very impressive from both teams. You know, we see why Baylor continues to dominate the landscape of acro and tumbling, because they continue to push the skills forward. I think it's one of those, they're doing a great job of perfecting what they have, but they're also creating new skills. That is going to be something that in 5 years we'll see kind of a standard portion, I bet.
most definitely, yeah.
You know, last year we saw with, I believe it was Grundler and Bailey Humphrey, we saw, what was it, the flip in the air. You know,
Yeah.
Humphrey was holding.
I know.
Yeah.
I was just reminiscing on that today. I remember watching that, being warmed up on the side mat, and just thinking like how far this sport has come, and just to think of how Baylor continually pushes the limit on these skills and makes it so much fun to watch. You never know what you're going to see from year to year. And again, like watching what they just did and what they put on the floor, that was very impressive, and it's exciting for the sport as a whole.
Yeah, it really is, because it's hard not to get excited, even if it's maybe not the team you're cheering for. It's hard not to get excited when you watch something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's always one of the interesting elements of acro and tumbling, because let's face it, there's no defense. And so, you know, there's nobody out there trying to knock Levy McDonald over when she's trying to do that. And so you can appreciate and enjoy what's going on while still being able to be excited about hopefully your team following up.
Yeah.
As that completes the acro elements, we're 2 elements down. We've got 4 to go, 1 before halftime, and that is the pyramid element. So the pyramid element is going to consist of 3 different heats once again. Heat 1 is the inversion pyramid, so much like the acro, you're going to see the top is going to go inverted at some point. Heat 2 is the synchronized pyramid heat. In this heat, 2 groups will take the mat and complete 2 identical pyramids. This heat cannot use the same pyramids as the compulsory pyramid heat. They got to be different from what you've already seen, trying to continue to create not only depth of team, but depth of skill. And then Heat 3 pyramid is the open pyramid, where teams have the option to compete at any pyramid they want, as long as it's different than the first 2 pyramids. So in this one, you could actually go back to the compulsory. So scores starting to come in now. Scores coming in for the acro element here in this meet between the number 1 Baylor Bears, the number 5 University of Mary Hardin-Baylor Crusaders. As you know, the Crusaders this year, I don't think I want to call it something to prove. I think last year you were a part of that team. It was almost like y'all continued to prove people wrong. I think seeing what was going on, and maybe people were a little bit in disbelief of what the Crusaders were doing, maybe even of some of the scores, until you showed up. You know, you guys were 5 points short of Baylor to begin the year, had to start off with a great run, and then lost to Oregon in the championships by 3 points. And I got to tell you, you know, I think the proximity of UMHB and Baylor, 40 miles apart, you know, I guess I always thought that calling a UMHB versus Baylor game would be distant but not out of the picture in just regular sport. But I got to tell you, when you talk about a playoff setting, the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor versus the Oregon Ducks, that's pretty amazing, at least from my side. But to see what y'all did week and week and week,
Yeah.
as you just continue to get better and improve. And now these Crusaders looking to do kind of a similar thing. They're trying to build off of what you guys started,
Yeah.
and see how this goes. Is now moving into the pyramids, and then especially into the toss and the tumbling. Going to see some of the new elements from UMHB. That I say the new elements, new teammates from UMHB. A lot of these freshmen, as Coach Scotto really has restocked, especially on the tumbling side. We're going to see some from, one is warming up right now in Riley Gray, really
Yeah.
impressive tumbler, a freshman that we're going to see for a long time. She's going to kind of pair with the likes of Jenna Hall in replacing another Crusader great in Kinsley Waters.
Yeah, most definitely.
As the Baylor 5-element acro starts off with 8.550, UMHB starts off 9.200. In the synchro 6-element, Baylor 9.350, UMHB 8.850. And in the 7-element, Baylor 9.900.
Wow.
UMHB 9.650. As the total score, Baylor wraps up the acro with 27.800. UMHB 27.700, brings the event total so far to Baylor 65.350, UMHB 64.050. So UMHB still within striking distance. And Callie, can we talk about how impressive it is to run out the skill that they ran out in the splits and still get a 9.900?
Oh, yeah. It definitely is one of those things that they're never going to forget, and they're hoping to continue to build on from here on out. So,
as coming onto the floor now for the inverted pyramid, Jordan Grundler, Levi McDonald, Bailey Vaughn, Morgan Brown, Addie Grandy, Meredith Wells, Kinsey Shilhab, and Ellie Leneve. You're going to have McDonald is going to be your mid on the thigh stand of your two bottom bases. 38, Jordan Grundler. Boy, it goes into that reverse mount, still impressive. They're going to go into that one hand again. Boy, we saw that not too long ago, but now we're going to add an element, and we're going to stand on top of other people.
yeah.
Boy, that's really good.
Yeah.
And am I jumping the gun in saying that saying Levi McDonald is a budding star in acrobatics and tumbling?
I don't think you're jumping the gun at all. She is proving herself one time and another with that one-armed handstand, one-handed handstand hold. That was something that Bailey Humphrey kind of really showed up and showed out with that within the last couple of years. And so she's stepping into that spot and doing just what she did before and doing it seamlessly. So,
boy, really nice. As you're going to see, moving over, shifting into this single arm. So much strength as well as balance. And really, think about being the top here. Jordan Grundler having to balance on one hand while on top of not one level of people, two levels of people.
oh, yeah.
And again, you know, the ability for the bases to be stable, the mid to be stable, so that way on one hand, I mean, you have what, 5 inches, 4 inches on your palm to stay stable. As the Crusaders now take the floor. On the floor is going to be Katie Breckler, Jenna Hall, Emily Kithill, Morgan Webb, Valeria Guevara, and Maya Manka. So it looks like Kithill is going to go into a back bend support, creating that table. Breckler's going to stand on those thighs. Boy, and so when you only have one person on the bottom, it's so difficult for that base. She's got to be so stable.
Yep.
Hall going to get into the inverted position. So we've got a pyramid that's just going to be 3 people tall. Hall kicks up and drops off as Crusaders wrap up the inverted pyramid.
Yeah.
With, you saw a little bit of the wobble in the arm. So again, we're talking about the beginning of the season, that things that things that these teams are working on. Is we're going to take a look here. So Kithill goes into this position, a little bit new because this is typically Morgan Webb's. This was Morgan Webb's position last year.
Yeah, and I believe we're going to see Morgan in the duo doing the back bend, but Kithill coming in and doing very well at the bottom there.
So we kind of talked about this. So you talk about how movement gets accentuated from the bottom up. If there's any movement on that, you see a little bit. It starts with Breckler's left foot as she moves a little bit onto that toe. You see the heel lift up just a little bit, and that toe goes to the knee, goes to the hip, goes to the shoulders, goes to the hand, and so then you see that real wobble. So I got to say how impressive it is that in the midst of that wobble to continue to be able to hold that position. Maybe came out of that pyramid just a touch early.
Yeah. They expect a good 3-second hold at the top of these positions, and I don't know if they exactly got that 3 seconds, so they might hit a little deduction for that, but overall they did a good job of trying to fight for it without making too big of corrections, because like you said, any little thing can just chain reaction and become a lot bigger of a thing, and especially in positions like this, it could get potentially dangerous, and so you want to be as safe and as smart about everything as possible.
So really, so moving here, look at this foot closest to you. You're going to see that foot begin to shift as that heel comes off. Boy, and she does a really nice job of not allowing her body weight to go too far forward. That's impressive strength. Breckler is a really amazing athlete. The ability to hold that in that moment is really incredible.
Yeah, she's definitely an athlete that I remember when she came in and versus who she is as an athlete now, and she's done so well with making good progressions, and she's a very, very strong person on UMHB's team.
Synchro pyramid coming up for the Bears. Peyton Washington, Bailey Vaughn, Mariah Polk, Layla Alexander, Ellie Leneve, Kinsey Shilhab, Morgan Brown, Cassie Karnbach, Emily Bott, Meredith Wells, Gigi Rendino, Deani Branch, Addie Grandy, Gianna Cameron, Nova Schmidt, and Becca Moore. Addie Vizzosi is your counter. So once again, we're going to have a couple of thigh stands. Synchronize. These two are going to be in sync. They're going to move to the top. Number 9, Peyton Washington. Number 7, Emily Bott are your tops. Boy, that's a long way up in the air. And so beautiful as well. Boy, big smiles. It's one of the fun things about Acro and Tumbling. When a team does it really, really well, you know they did it really, really well because they are exciting. The sideline's excited.
Yep.
They come running off with big smiles.
Most definitely. Yeah, they just did a really, really great job. I didn't see much movement at all from either sides of that pyramid and that synchro. And again, they stayed very synchronized, which is what the judges are looking for as well. And I would say that was done very, very great.
Boy, I tell you, reigning freshman of the year in Peyton Washington, as soon as she got to the top of the pyramid, she had a big smile on her face. She comes down, she still has a big smile on her face as she's looking over at Emily Bott. And so really fun. Emily Bott, a fellow sophomore, so a little bit of camaraderie just in the sense of coming in as freshmen.
Yep.
I think you've experienced, you come in with someone as a freshman, you are great friends with everyone on your team, but there's a little bit of shared experience with people that are your age as you come in.
Most definitely, yeah. So it adds to that kind of camaraderie and just that connection that you have with your teammates.
And so the Baylor really starting to show some incredible experience, incredible athleticism here in these pyramids. UMHB is going to try and match it here in the second heat with Katie Breckler, Morgan Webb, Sarah Williamson, Kristen Johnson, Maddie Malesic, Emily Kithill, Maya Manka, Jenna Hall, Valeria Guevara, and Kylie Jones on the floor. Chloe Drew is going to be your counter as UMHB now. Okay, Callan, so help me out here with this. Acro and Tumbling is very much, like most sports, a sport of momentum.
Yes.
And the more that you can build momentum, you gain confidence, you gain excitement, and excitement is a big part of this sport.
Yeah.
How, as an athlete, when you see momentum building on the other side of the floor, we've talked about you're not playing defense, but you're still competing.
Yeah.
When you see momentum building on the other side of the floor, because right now, I'll tell you, looking at faces, UMHB realizes that Baylor is really doing well right now. How can you handle that as an athlete?
Yeah, so I mean that's just part of the sport. They come out, do something, you go out and do something, and so you just have to keep in mind that this can be you too, and to play to what you're strong in, and how you can perform, and what you've done in practice. So trusting your training and getting out there and doing exactly what you've been training for, and it'll all pay off, and you just have to stay consistent and stay on top of it.
And really, it only takes one heat. It takes you absolutely nailing one thing, and you gain so much confidence.
Most definitely. Yeah.
As now the Crusaders take the floor, and looks like we're going to have a very similar element. Now we have Morgan Webb back on the back bend at the bottom of the pyramid. This time Breckler is going to be with Webb, though. So Breckler was with Kithill last time. Be interesting to see how this functions with the switch in the pairing, as Maya Manka is going to be your mid-base on Kithill this time.
Yeah, and that just goes to show, again, like the depth and the able to have that flexibility from Katie Breckler.
Boy, into the straddle, really nice from both these athletes. Hey, and a really nice dismount. It was a catch more into the drop-off, and there it is. There it is, Cal. I told you, when teams do something that they know they did well, they're the first people to show you. Big smiles from the Crusaders, and really needed after about 3 elements where Baylor was really showing how strong they are. UMHB answers back. Yeah,
most definitely. They came out there and they did a really good job of right off the bat just having really great stability from the bridges at the bottom, and then building all the way up. Had really great positions as the tops held that straddle, and that dismount was very unique, coming all the way to the ground, and there was no movement.
So really nice here. A lot of really stable positions. This is a great angle. As you can see, there's no movement in the bases whatsoever. With that final drop off, nice and synchro, they drop And not really a catch, more a guide down to the bottom. Really good job from the Crusaders.
Yeah, and dismounts like that, it's all about where you're at in your vicinity to that base that's in the back bend. Is those other bases are trying to catch and guide you. If you're too far away, you're not able to guide it properly. If you're too close, their legs are going to come crushing down. So you just have to be so timed, so perfect, and that's exactly what they were. So that was great.
Really, really interesting thing from this position. Look at how hard your two bases in Kithill and Webb are pushing towards their legs, because with the weakest part of your body here is going to be your shoulders and your hands, and that body weight, even though they are the mid bases are down towards the knees, that body weight is going to want to move towards your hands, so they're really having to push with those shoulders.
Yeah.
Very strength intensive. As the Bears now head out for their final pyramid. Bears with Jordan Grundler, Levy McDonald, Mariah Polk, Morgan Brown, Kinsey Shilhab, Cassie Karnbach, and your counter is Addie Grandy. Boy, once again, McDonald is your mid-base. Grundler's going to be on top.
Really great pairing right here. We've seen a few times now, and it's awesome.
Boy, goes to that super extension. So nice as she's going to drop off. And my favorite part of the entire pyramid was Addie Grandy at the end. Addie Grandy was the counter, and she was so excited. She just starts jumping up and down on the mat. But you see, going to go into this, and Grundler is so good at this positioning. Saw it all year last year, continuing to see it this year with her new partner in McDonald. As Grundler's going to go to the top and then is going to point basically right at the camera with those toes, which if anyone ever sees me in this position, please call an ambulance. That was not intentional on my part. Boy, so good from Grundler. The drop, and now watch your counter. She's
so excited.
Jumping up. It is so much fun, the excitement that happens in this sport.
Yeah.
As the Crusaders on the floor are going to be sending Katie Breckler, Sarah Williamson, Emily Kithill, Morgan Webb, and Kristen Johnson to the floor for this inverted pyramid. And one of the really interesting things between last year and this year, obviously senior heavy last year, lost some incredible seniors, and we've only mentioned Kinsley Walters once. We're going to talk about her a lot more as we get into tumbling.
Yes.
But you look at a lot of the new pairings. You know, I think we've seen that. I think even last year, you guys had an incredible year, the best year a Division III team has ever had. And you still saw pairings shifting around as the year went on. About halfway through the year, you guys really found that rhythm.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see the Crusaders still looking really good, but as the pairings continue to shift and as they continue to clean this up, you know, we saw two pyramid heats in a row, the exact same element. Or you saw the back bends with the mid base, but with switching it up a little bit, you saw maybe a little bit more comfortability.
Yeah, most definitely.
As now here comes the Crusaders. Boy, 4 really strong bases on the floor for the Crusaders.
Yeah.
And Sarah Williamson, who's just, as we've talked about, one of the best tops in the nation. So you're going to have Emily Kithill is going to be your back bend base. Katie Breckler is going to be that mid, and up goes Sarah Williamson. Sarah Williamson's going to go inverted. Excuse me, not inverted. She's going into the L sit. Boy, look at how high those legs are on that L sit.
Very beautiful position.
As she does a 360 off. Boy, really nice. Sarah Williamson. Boy, Sarah's a character.
She is.
Sarah is one of the funniest athletes I've ever been around, because until you really know her, if you see her on the floor, she is just stone-faced when she's competing. Has just a face of unmovable thought.
Yes.
But then the moment it's over, just huge smiles, goofy, fun dancing. It's so much fun.
Running off, dabbing. It was.
Oh yeah.
She keeps that alive.
When I got backwards here, I forgot this was the open. This wasn't the inverted. But so this is so beautiful here. As they, you saw it right here. That actually what they did is Breckler had to open her hands. So they went from that position where Breckler's hands are right over the top of her head. She has to open her hands. That type of movement in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if it's something that judges count or not, or they look at or not, but the ability for those hands to just keep going too wide and lose that strength is really something special for Breckler to hold on to. As you're seeing, boy, it's just a beautiful pyramid from the Crusaders.
Emily Kithill did a very good job of staying super tight at the bottom right there.
Boy, and a great job staying completely balanced on her feet, coming across, and look at how high those toes are. They're up by her shoulders. And then a perfect 360 pirouette off. Really good.
Yeah.
Boy, as I don't want to get out of here too quickly if they're going to do the scores right now or if they're going to do it when they come back from halftime. Back from halftime, we got the scores in the pyramid heat. In the inversion pyramid, Baylor 9.800, UMHB 9.100. In the synchro pyramid, 9.600, UMHB 9.500. And in the open pyramid, Baylor 9.950, UMHB 9.950. As in the pyramid, Baylor with a total score of 29.350, UMHB 28.550. So Baylor continued to ooch that score just a little bit further away from UMHB. Baylor now with a total of 94.700, UMHB 92.600. UMHB trying to stay within striking distance. Baylor trying to create a little bit of space and breathing room between them and UMHB. As last year, UMHB actually beat Baylor in the team event. So UMHB hopefully looking to build off of recent memory while Baylor trying to create a little bit of space. Hey, we're going to be moving into the toss event here at the end of halftime. We've got about a minute and a half left in halftime. The toss event consists of 3 heats. 1 heat is the salto toss. Heat 2 is the synchro toss, and Heat 3 is the open toss. So you got a possible 30 points up for grabs here. Maximum start value of 10.0 as Baylor is going to go 9.9, 9.9, and 10. UMHB is going to go 9.4, 9.4, and 10. So we're finally starting to see the planning of this event in terms of how high of a skill can you do. And obviously, if you have a 9.9 skill level, you've got an entire half a point's worth of deductions before you even reach the other possible skill level of the other team. And so you really create some space. And to help explain this, by popular demand, the Acro world has demanded, and Callan has chosen to stay with us. Callan, you know, I know that not many of you listening get to know Callan, but Callan is so sweet. She just has this intense urge to yell for her former teammates. But the Acro world has resoundingly said, please stay, so we don't have to deal with Kyle all by ourselves, as Callan is here. Callan, so tell me this. What's the difference? You don't have to get too technical. What's the difference in a 9.9 toss versus a 9.4 toss?
Yeah, so honestly, toss event as is very difficult to get that 10-0 start value. And so you really have to push yourself. Again, this is one of those things. Girls are flying so high in the air. You have to be careful, and the training beforehand all has to be so particular in order to reach that 9.9 start, even a 10.0 start. And so even girls doing 9.4 start values is something to be super proud of in of itself, because it's a difficult event.
Absolutely. As the first heat, the salto toss has a special requirement of a salto, or a minimum 450 degrees of rotation. For all you math majors, one full rotation is a 360-degree rotation. So this means that there is a flip that begins with the top standing on their feet, and they flip all the way around and land on their back. As Baylor's going to get started off, a start value of 9.90. On the floor is going to be Peyton Washington, Morgan Brown, Deani Branch, Nova Schmidt, Kinsey Shilhab, and your counter is Aaliyah Kalustian. Peyton Washington is going to be your top. She's going to get tossed. Beautiful.
Very well done.
Boy, as you had that 450 with a full rotation, and boy, really incredible. As we're going to get a chance to take a look at this. She goes straight up and straight down.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really, the up and down is so much on the part of the bases, right?
Yeah. Every base has to be timed perfectly. Very strong, very particular in where their arms go when they're in the air.
And so you saw the step right there from 36 as Nova Schmidt, and that was just a step to clear herself of the feet. So that wasn't a negative step. That was a step so that way she stands right in front. She's that front base. She throws up or throws the athlete up and then steps with one foot to the side. So as those feet come down, she clears, she catches with just her right arm. Boy, really impressive. And you saw that up and then back down. Boy, and a good job, too, of getting her face out of the way is Kinsey Shilhab. And Kinsey, a very tall athlete. So, I think that's an interesting piece of all of this is athlete height in the bases is interesting because, as you throw, obviously a taller athlete can extend further, but also is going to catch sooner.
Yes.
And so this is where so much of the teamwork and so much time goes into this in practice, isn't it?
Yeah, most definitely. When you progress these things, just to find the timing and make sure it's all right, a lot of times they just focus on the actual process of where your arms sit, how you load, how you push your arms, how fast you pull them up, without even a top in the basket, just to make sure your timing is right.
For the Crusaders with a 9.4 start value, Sarah Williamson's going to be your top. Morgan Webb, Hannah Ross, Katie Breckler, Maddie Malesic with your counter, Maya Manka. So facing towards the right of the mat at that angle. 4 bases in the formation. Up and down, and a really nice job there with a full twist and that salto. A good job from the Crusaders.
Yeah, very well done with them. They did a single full twist within the air while Baylor did a double, so that's where that start value difference comes from. One thing to always focus on and look at is not only the position of Sarah Williamson going through the air, it is from that angle specifically, you can see there was some traveling towards Katie Breckler, but she did a very good job. That's what I was going to say, the movement from the bases. When you move your feet in order to adjust if someone is drifting over to the side, that's a deduction. And so Katie did a really good job of not moving her feet in order to save any sort of deduction like that.
Well, and we've seen this. I think Webb and Breckler are the two we've seen it from the most. UMHB has an incredible strength program and a coach dedicated to the strength of these athletes. Boy, and you're seeing that with some of the positioning we've seen on this. We saw Breckler, we've seen Webb, both drop down real low and maintain a lot of weight while also keeping their form in balance, which in this sport is just about everything, isn't it? Most
definitely, yeah. Strength here in acrobatics and tumbling is one of the most important aspects. Coming in, I didn't have any experience in a weight room, and so to see how much strength I even built, it's so impressive to see these girls be able to hold everything up from there.
As the Bears come on for their synchro toss, Peyton Washington, Morgan Brown, Deani Branch, Nova Schmidt, Kinsey Shilhab. On the second group, Raquel Jeffries, Gianna Cameron, Meredith Wells, Ellie Lanive, Addie Grandy, and the counter is Aaliyah Kalustian. As on top, Peyton Washington and Raquel Jeffries. And a good job from the Bears. You see a 9.9 start value. You see the 2 full twists again, which is going to give them a little bit of that boost. Just a little bit of traveling from each without the steps, though. Like you just said, a little bit of travel, but no steps.
Yeah. And that's a great thing from Baylor's bases. They did a really good job, again, hiding any type of additional deductions that could be taken. With these double full tosses, a lot of times the tops might kind of rush and drop a shoulder in order to start initiating that twist. And when you drop that shoulder, again, it's just the smallest of things can just lead to a larger, not problem, but a larger effect. And so in that situation, the drifting kind of comes from that drop in that shoulder. But again, the bases and everybody did so good about not making any more additional movements.
Well, so many things in the sport. You talk about maybe the rush of the drop, the shoulder, and some of these other things that we've talked about. So much of this sport is a chain. And so if the first bit of the chain or the second bit of the chain is just a little bit off, the 4th, 5th, and 6th bits of that chain can get way off.
Yeah.
And so, like we said again, if things are going to happen, can you minimize the problems, whether it be over the course of the event or over the course of the movement? As UMHB is going to come on with a start value of 9.40. Sarah Williamson, Morgan Webb, Hannah Ross, Katie Breckler, Maddie Malesic. And then that second grouping is going to be Jenna Hall, Kristen Johnson, Emily Kithel, Natalie Podsednik, Valeria Guevara, and your counter is Maya Manka. Hall and Williamson are your tops. Crusaders going to be facing a little bit different direction this time. Up and down, boy. Straight up and straight down. And again, just saw the single full rotation from the Crusaders, which is the difference in that half point. They almost exactly like the previous. But boy, the Crusaders straight up and straight down, that looks really good.
Most definitely. Another thing to always look at from the judges' point of view, they want to look at the positioning of those tops that are in the air. So as these girls are kind of coming down, there's some pike in the hips that you can see. But again, nothing super substantial. There's no big form break, so a very well job done by these girls from UMHB.
Absolutely. Great job as we're about to head into the third heat of the toss event. Third heat is the open toss. No special requirements. Teams can choose to compete any toss that they would like, as Baylor is going to have a 10.0 start value. UMHB is also going to have a 10.0 start value. And we're going to see a couple of different tops. Gabby Kaminsky is going to be a top for Baylor. Jenna Hall will be the top, and I say different tops. I know that Jenna Hall was just on the floor, but wasn't on the floor for the first one. So a little bit interesting to see here if the skill that's going to show up for the Crusaders, is it going to be significantly different? Is it something that they feel more comfortable with Jenna Hall doing? And I think there's a lot that goes into this. One, just being the limited time that Division III athletes have to compete. Sometimes you have to do a division of labor and say, look, we don't have enough time to function all these skills with the best possible top we have, which Jenna Hall's an incredible top. I'm not trying to degrade her there. And so, but I'm not just trying to blame timing, because the Bears using a brand new top in Kaminsky as well.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited to see these 10-0 start values. Like I said, this is a very, very difficult thing to try to get that 10-0 start. So both teams doing a great job.
As the Bears in the basket. Boy, really nice there.
So to get that 10-0 start value, the Bears are happy. To get that 10-0 start value, I don't, if you could see, there was a kick before she initiated that twist. So that's what gave that from that 9-9 start for just a double full to a 10-0 start value, which I believe Jenna Hall will be doing as well. It adds a little bit more difficulty, a little bit more timing. You have your momentum, you're going up, you have to close your legs right before you start twisting. There's a lot more of little moving parts, and the Bears did that really, really great. Yeah,
just the addition of one little part, because it's typically something you don't want to do is separate your feet, because it is going to throw off the rotation, it's going to throw off the explosion, and now they're purposely adding it in. Boy, really impressive from the Bears, and you saw how excited they got. Because it was done so well. You see on the replay just a little bit of a lean back. Again, not a huge travel, just a little bit of a lean back.
Yeah.
And again, boy, I got to tell you, watching the replay, I was worried about it again. Now all of a sudden, my focus, every time that I see one of these really tall bases for Baylor hanging out in the back, I always get nervous, like, oh, please get your face out of the way. As they're incredible athletes, and so that's, it's just the dad in me. I've got an 11-year-old little girl. It's just the dad in me. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it is one of those things. Luckily, these girls, I'm sure they have really great experience of either cheer or gymnastics backgrounds. They're able to kind of gauge where the top is coming down at, and they're usually out of the way, which is great.
Absolutely. As now the Crusaders come on, Jenna Hall on the top. Kristen Johnson, Emily Kithill, Natalie Podsednik, Valeria Guevara, and Maya Manka is your counter. So we got Jenna Hall setting up the same direction as Baylor set up. Boy, same thing for the Crusaders, in the exact same element.
Yeah.
As she had the kick as well.
Yeah.
And really good from the crew.
Oh my gosh, yeah. This is an exciting moment for the crew, I would say. That was the first time they ever competed that skill. Last year we only did up to just a double full without that kick. And so this is the first time that's ever been competed. So good job for Jenna Hall and for the whole team for pushing that and getting that start value up.
Absolutely. As we're about to move on to the tumbling events. And now, boy, Callan, this is where separation happens. 60 points available because there are 6 heats. The first 3 are synchros, a duo, a trio, and a quad. So you can have 2 athletes, 3 athletes, and 4 athletes, and you can't reuse the athletes. So this is going to show the depth in your abilities of tumbling. And then we're going to have a 3 individual passes as the last three, the fourth heat is going to be the aerial pass, fifth heat is the sixth element, and the sixth is the open pass.
Yep.
And boy, we're going to see some incredible athletes going here. In the aerial pass, the athlete is required to perform 2 aerial or salto elements. The aerial element is a skill that is performed without the hands touching the floor. And as Kinsley Walters got to know, Kinsley was my girl. I love a good whip. You know, you come through and you've got that back handspring where your hands don't actually touch the ground, so it's obviously not a back handspring. I love a good whip.
Oh yeah, they're one of those really exciting skills. It's just, you think the body can't move that fast, but it just does. And then when your feet are under you at the right time, the amount of power you can still get out of a whip, it's very impressive. And a lot of these girls are just so good at these. And so you're probably about to see a couple of them that on the floor.
Well, and this is going to be interesting as well, because this is the first time that we've called a meet with the new scoring rules. And so I say new, it's just a small adjustment. The way that it was explained to me, that Coach Skoda explained to me, is think of it the way in which, when basketball moves the three-point line back, just to continue to increase the difficulty while still maintaining the integrity of the game. It's the same thing here. Going to see some new elements. Really, it's creating some space, actually.
Yeah.
Allowing for a little bit more of the human element when you have a blind takeoff, a blind landing, when you have moments in the middle of a pass that typically you lose a lot of speed on and then try and move into another element. And so going to see probably a little bit more spacing now.
Yeah.
As I think last year they identified, and I don't want to speak too much as an expert here, but I think last year they identified that maybe there were portions within tumbling in which they wanted to reward being able to accomplish a skill of high difficulty with some deductions, as opposed to having it too crunched together where, yeah, I could do a skill of a higher difficulty and I get a few deductions, or I could do a skill of a much lower difficulty and get even fewer deductions and still wind up with relatively the same score.
Yeah, I think that they're definitely trying to, like you said, just up the difficulty of the sport in general and just push athletes to reach their full potentials and try to get to those new start values and new rules and settings that in the past we haven't had to, get to that point. But it's good for the schools to really try to push these harder skills, because you get rewarded for those harder skills, and which is, as is, just competing on a dead floor in general is a hard thing to do. So all of these athletes, no matter what skills they're performing, it's already difficult enough. They're doing awesome. But to be able to do some of these things we're about to see from Baylor and UMHB get rewarded at a higher level will be really great for the sport.
Yeah, continuing to push the sport forward, which is what they keep trying, and I think it's what Acro has done such a good job of, is continuing to push the sport forward, and it continues to grow the excitement.
Yeah.
Scores in from the toss in the first heat. Toss 9.500 for Baylor, 8.700 for UMHB. In the synchro, Baylor 9.400, UMHB 8.750. In the open toss, Baylor 9.600, UMHB 9.250. And so the total score right now in the toss, 28.500 for Baylor, 26.700 for UMHB. The running total for the event, Baylor 123.200, UMHB 119.300, heading into 60 points worth of an event, as Baylor created a little bit more space, giving them a little bit of breathing room out of the toss and into the tumbling. Your first two tumblers in the duo is going to be Aaliyah Thomas and Gigi Rendino, with a possible start value of 10.0. Starting at different places on the mat, but they're going to hit it at the same time. This is just to make sure this is, because you are allowed to have a different run-up, different timing. Boy, a really good pass for the Bears.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny, we talk about how there's a lot of different body types and different strengths, and as a whole, though, when they're tumbling, you don't see these things. It's just so seamless in how these girls tumble and their technique. And they did a very good job of staying synchronized, so it just looked like one athlete out there essentially kind of moving instead of two.
Absolutely. So that round off into the whip, boy, and finishing with the full, really nice. A little bit of a sideways step there at the end.
Yeah.
But boy, I'm not going to be too overly critical. Boy, a really nice run from the Bears.
Yeah, that was very well done. A couple form deductions on the far athlete, but they both did a very, very good job of the timing. Their feet hit the ground at the same time. They have the same kind of set and the same kind of technique. So all in all, it was done very well.
For the Crusaders, we're going to have a senior and a freshman on the floor together. Chloe Drew and Riley Gray. We saw Riley in the compulsory, and we haven't seen her since. Riley, very strong tumbler. Crusaders really excited about her, as Chloe Drew being that calming senior presence and just such a big smile out there.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that putting the smiley senior with the intense freshman is not a brilliant coaching move.
I was going to say, I feel like it's a fun combination to have with someone who's been a little bit more in the mix of it with someone who's brand new. This is her first collegiate meet, and so to have that person that can kind of balance you if you're feeling anxious or if you're excited, they can be excited with you. It's just one of those fun combinations.
Absolutely is. Everybody kind of waiting, and this is where judging can take a little bit longer in the tumbling because there's obviously so much more to judge as you're looking, and you can kind of see what Callan is talking about on some of the just form deductions, just maybe a little bit of over and under rotation at times. Callan, what are some of the other things that you? Oh, wait, actually, we just got the thumbs up, so don't want to go too long here. As Chloe Drew and Riley Gray start from the far corner. Boy, nice pass. Got a little bit out of sync there, but nice pass, especially starting off with that front handspring.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, was that front handspring or front tuck? See, this is my age is starting to show.
Punch front.
Punch front, thank you so much.
There we go. Punch front, step out.
So got just a little bit off timing, but a good start. You see them starting at a little bit different space. As Drew with the longer legs, boy, there's that punch front. Everything's still in sync. As you saw, a little bit of a buckle from the front leg of Drew as she came down. I think that's where the out of sync came. And then finishing with the.
There was, it was supposed to be a full. So Chloe Drew did do a layout, which. Again, in the moment, some of those decisions just have to be happening for your safety. And like you said, coming out of that punch front step out, there was a little bit of buckling in Chloe's knees. So it kind of led to have less momentum moving into that run off back handspring. And so, you know, good decision from Chloe to do what's best for her body and make sure she's not putting herself in any more danger or anything like that. So some of these things, like you said, it's the beginning of the season, so they have a lot of room for improvement. And really good outcome for the freshman. She did really great right there.
Great.
So, like
Absolutely.
you said, lots of room for improvement, and the girls they know that too, and they're just going to keep working at it.
Well, and saw on the replay there, I said buckle, but actually it was a little bit of I think because her back foot slipped a little bit, that front foot that lands, you can kind of see here, the front foot's going to land right now. You're going to see a little bit of a slip turn to the side, and so that front foot actually rebounds. And so she's not able to keep it on the ground as long, and so she's going to lose a lot of speed. And like you said, great job just completing an element. You're going to get a lot of deduction, obviously, but completing that element is important over the course of the entire event.
Yeah,
so
most definitely.
We move on to the trio. Is going to be Emily Bott, Gianna Cameron, and Ashlyn Tannehill with a possible start value of 9.75 for the Bears. It's going to be a sophomore in Bott, junior in Cameron, freshman in Tannehill. So Tannehill making her debut for the Bears.
There's those whips you like.
Love me a good whip.
Ooh.
And finishing with that full.
Full and a half.
Excuse me, full and a half. Really good job from the Bears.
Yeah.
A lot of speed at the end, too, especially. You kind of see that when they hit and they wrap up that full and a half, that there's so much momentum. You have that extra step that actually coaches tend to write in to avoid getting a deduction on it. And so seeing here on the replay, here's the 2 whips, no hands. Boy, really nice, especially the front 2 in great sync. And now they're all 3 in sync.
Yeah.
Into a back handspring. A second back handspring, and then here's going to come the full and a half. So they're going to wind up facing a different direction from what they started off as. And boy, pretty good on the synchro there. You see kind of that extra step because that was a lot of speed that they maintained the entire way through. You know, the 2 whips and then the 2 back handsprings are not really, they're not elements you lose a lot of speed in. So, you know, Callan, correct me if I'm wrong, you actually kind of have to manage your speed at the end on that full and a half so that way you don't just go flying forward.
Most definitely, especially if whenever you execute some of these skills correctly, you end up having so much power, especially with those 2 back handsprings leading up to that final skill. You have so much room to start generating some real power, and so once you hit that final skill, you have to kind of rein it all in so you're not just completely flying into the other team, which they did a very good job of finding their feet and staying on the mat. That's another thing we look for as the judges look for, and they did a great job.
So the trio for the Crusaders is going to be senior Maya Manka, junior Jenna Hall, and junior Jackie McGuire. Welcome back to Jackie McGuire, who tore her Achilles last year. Jackie was such a big part of the Crusaders 2 years ago in tumbling and in tosses, and so now she is back. Excited to have Jackie back as Crusaders with their trio about to get started. All in a relatively similar start position, just a couple of feet difference. Boy, really good job from the Crusaders. Yes, we've got Callan over here celebrating. Callan and Maya, longtime roommates.
Yes.
As, boy, a really good run from the Crusaders. We see this. They're going to get started here with the round off into a back handspring. And in sync, really good in sync here. You see the hands coming over at the same time, feet come over at the same time.
Yeah.
And then here's that explosion. They're facing their team when they take off. And into the full and a half. There's the half where they face the other team when they land. Boy, really nice. That was a start value of 8.75.
Yeah.
As you know, obviously there's almost always deductions, especially in these tumbling passes. I think maybe I've only seen 110 in my couple years of doing this. But a really good pass from the Crusaders.
Yeah. Yeah, their synchronization was really, really well here, done really well. Like you said, the start value is a little bit lower, so that's just where they're going to have to really be as clean as they possibly can, which they all did a really good job, no big form breaks. So overall, really great job for UMHB.
Heading into the quad for Baylor with a possible start value of 10.0. Peyton Washington, Aaliyah Kalustian, Sarah Kerr, and Gabby Kaminsky. So you've got a sophomore in Washington, senior in Kalustian, freshman in Kerr, sophomore in Kaminsky, taking on the quad. As that was a huge pass.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things I'm always interested to see in these 10.0 passes is there's always so many speed changes.
Yeah.
There's fast, then slow, then fast, then slow. And you see now what they're talking about in trying to bring in the judging of the human element about when you put together a difficult pass like you're seeing here. So they go with that punch front and then the step out into the back handspring. So we're already a little bit off in the timing as the bottom two on perfect sync.
Yeah.
And the top two, honestly, in perfect sync.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah, and it just felt like it just kept going, which is a very difficult thing to do, especially on a dead mat like this. Right there is where there was a lot of sync disparity. Those front two doing really well about staying in sync, and then the back two were catching up to one another, but there was just some discrepancy while in the air.
Yeah,
so.
And Kaminsky just lost a little bit of speed there at the end, couldn't quite keep it up, so she couldn't quite get the full rotation in. But again, it's a 10.0 start value. UMHB is about to start with an 8.0.
Yeah.
So even with that bobble, still a really good chance to, and probably a better than average chance even with that bobble, to outscore UMHB on this. And it shows the necessity of depth in the tumbling portion.
Most definitely, yeah.
as, you know, because you can't use the same athletes, to be able to do a 10.0 pass with 4 athletes on the floor is absolutely bonkers to me.
Yeah.
Because you're limited by effectively what the worst tumbler on the floor can do.
Yeah.
And so you can go a duo with a 10.0 pass, say that's my 2 best. But if you say that's my 2 best tumblers on the floor, then you're going to struggle in the trios and the quads,
Yeah.
where, you know, Baylor is able to go, what is that? I mean, that's 9 deep in terms of, you know, a 10, a 9.75, and a 10.
Yeah.
And it shows the strategy of the sport.
Yeah.
You know, can I just continue to put things together that not only can you not match in terms of technique, you can't match in terms of skill.
Yeah. Yeah. They do a very good job of having very good depth on their team.
Starting off with an 8.0 start value for the Crusaders, Kristen Johnson, Alexis Gokel, Lucia Duran, and Madison Lewis. Deep breaths from the Crusaders. Morgan Webb's going to start counting for the crew. Back handspring into a full, and really nice job in the synchronization, and nice job in, at least from the untrained eye, of technique.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Most definitely. You're
Got
good.
a little choked up. It was so good. I got a little choked up there, but a really good job. And here's the deal. That's a really good run for UMHB, because when you talk about the people that are part of it, Kristen Johnson, torn Achilles last year. So that was a tumbling pass that she was a part of after tearing her Achilles. Alexis Gokel, a junior, Lucia Duran, a junior, Madison Lewis, a sophomore, and really starting to see some of these on the mat in a small grouping for the first time.
Yeah.
Saw them last year on the mat in the team event especially, but now you can speak to this way better than I can. You know, when you're out there and you're a member of a duo, a trio, or a quad, you got a lot more eyeballs on you. And you can feel that, can't you?
Yes, most definitely. These girls, they all know what it's like to be on the mat. But whenever you're on the mat for tumbling, you just standing there, you always feel a little bit more of nerves, a little bit more butterflies in your stomach. But it's exciting. Tumbling as a event is one of those exciting events that as soon as you start moving, that those nerves are all gone. And so that's what you saw here. These girls got going, and you can tell they've been practicing on that synchronization. Although we've never seen them all tumble together, they did a really good job of staying in sync, so good for them.
As we're about to head into now the individual tumbling passes, see some individual brilliance. We're going to start off with Emily Bott. We've called her name a lot today. Emily Bott with a possible start value of 10.0. This is the aerial pass, so she's going to have 2 aerial elements. As Bott with a wave, she gets set up. Deep breath in, she takes off.
Wow.
3 whips and a full and a half.
Yeah.
Boy, really impressive from Bott. We see why it's a 10.0 start value.
Yeah. And one thing, those whips, she makes them look easy. But in all reality, you have to be so in tune and in touch with where your body's at in air. If you over-rotate one of those or under-rotate one of them, you completely lose any type of momentum you have. And she just did a really good job of finding her feet for every single one of those and setting herself up for a really good full and a half at the end.
You know, that was a pass that for about the first half of the season, for the UMHB fans listening, Kinsley Walters, she competed that pass for about the first half of the season, and then went back, dropped it down to 2 whips, and I think she went from a start value of 10.0 to about 9.8, and still scored so well. So to see those 3 whips it is so much fun. Now with a start value of 9.55, Riley Gray, the freshman, is going to take the floor.
Yeah.
And so Gray, we talked about her earlier. She was paired with Chloe Drew. Gray's pass was great. I wonder if we're going to see the same pass out of Riley Gray that we saw.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. She's a lot further back this time.
Yeah, she looks like she's about to have a lot of momentum going into this, so let's see what she does.
Full and a half at the end by Riley Gray with a big old smile and a great pass for Gray. Even a hug for Coach Scotto. Hey, that's how you know Coach Scotto's excited. Is when she gives you the hug. Boy, and here comes the dancing at the end. You don't get to see it, but we move here. She goes that front handspring into the punch front.
Yeah, so for handspring front through to step out, so.
Boy, a couple of back handsprings into the full and a half. Full and a
Yeah.
half, such a difficult element. Boy, and she just absolutely sticks it.
Oh yeah, in of itself, a full and a half is one of those things that when you get it on the dead floor, it is so exciting and it's such a big accomplishment. So to have all the other elements she had right beforehand, that is awesome. Coming from a freshman, I think it's really great to acknowledge that she's just a freshman. This is her first meet. She has so much time for growth and development within this sport, and I'm excited to see what she does in the next 4 years.
Just a great pass. So let's do this for just a moment. We talk about dead floor. Would you explain the difference between a dead floor and what many gymnasts are used to?
Yeah, so coming from a gymnastics background myself, I was used to, and as well as many of these other girls, having a spring floor underneath me without using shoes for a lot of the things that we would do. And so coming to this sport now, you're on a basketball floor having just about 2 inches of a mat above you between you and the basketball floor. So you have to generate a lot of your own power. It's really hard, but it's really, really rewarding.
Shows the athleticism and power of these athletes as Peyton Washington with a 10.0 pass getting started for the Bears. How about that?
Yeah.
Full and a half into a full.
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of one of those things we talked about. The speed changes really is visually appealing as well as incredibly difficult.
Yeah, so on those elements where she just goes in the air and it feels like it's going slower, in her mind, she's probably just moving the same intensity the whole time. But for our eyes, it's really cool to see just how she floats. And genuinely, Peyton, she's so good at looking like she's floating. She looks like she's on spring, which I was talking about before.
Yeah.
She just looks like she's just jumping, has springs in her shoes, you know? That's what I would tell Kinsley Walters last year. I would say, I think she might have springs in her shoes.
Yeah, we're sitting here giving this whole spiel about a dead floor.
Yeah.
And then Peyton Washington comes out and she's just floating in the air. Boy, that was a really great run from Washington, though.
Very, very great, yeah.
As the sixth element now is going to be Jenna Hall, a junior for the Crusaders. Hall, a former freshman of the year in Division III. So UMHB answers with their own former freshman of the year. Hall starting at the corner, deep breath with the kick and the run. Boy, and a great job from Hall. Boy, and here's what I'm most impressed with. She was coming right at us, so we didn't have a great depth perception. Looked like she was losing a lot of speed and yet continued to function in the elements.
Most definitely, yeah. I would say that her first element that she did, the round off by handspring full and half step out, or she didn't do it by handspring, and I'm sorry, but the full and half step out, the timing on that could have been a little bit off, which made it kind of slow down a bit, but she did a really good job of still building up her speed in those back handsprings and finishing with a really, really strong and clean full.
Yeah, and really, again, had a hard time seeing, we didn't see from the side, but finishing with a full where she almost landed in the same spot she took off from, as we're going to get a good look at it here. Boy, she does such a good job. So on the step out, we're going to see, she comes here with the step out, and again, maybe just a little bit of a rebound on that front foot, throws off the timing, but she is so strong to continue. See her getting way down in those legs, exploding off, and then she's going to land about, what is that, 1.5 feet, 2 feet?
Yeah.
From where she takes off. She basically goes straight up and down to accomplish that full. That's absolutely amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And so now the open pass, Sarah Kerr, a freshman for Baylor, with a 10.0 pass. Take the stage, young one. Kerr with the diagonal run in.
Wow.
Wow, so good from Kerr.
I just want to say her form is impeccable. Like, through the air, if I could just take pictures through each one of those skills she just did, she had perfect straight legs, perfect toe point. You could see it through her shoes. So really great job from a freshman. Again, like, just to see and think about all the things she could accomplish in these next 4 years is really exciting.
With that front handspring into that punch front with the step out, then moves into these back handsprings into a 4.5. Oh yeah, I'm not done yet. Let's do a back handspring into a full. Boy, so good from Kerr. Kerr, just a freshman out of Scottsdale, Arizona,
Wow.
wrapping up a really good trio of individual passes
Yeah.
for the Bears.
Yeah, really great job there.
Coming onto the floor now as UMHB is going to send out their senior for the open pass, going to be Maya Manka with a 9.25 start value.
Yeah.
Manka surrounded by her teammates. Going to come running out of her teammates, kind of a cool look. I think she turned around at the end because I think that might have supposed to have been a full and a half.
Yeah.
Just turned into a full.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, again, like she has a lot of time within this season to really continue building that skill, and this is only the first meet, and so whenever, like we've been kind of talking about, if one thing kind of goes off, I'm trying to see where that might have happened at. It just looks like in that back handspring, her arms weren't back fast enough, so it kind of gave a little bit, and next thing you know, she didn't have as much power as she was expecting or wanting to have, but did a good job of still making the decision in the moment, not to hurt herself or, you know, put herself in any type of situation for the deduction of a fall.
Absolutely.
So, really
Well,
smart decision coming from Maya Minka.
Well, absolutely, because if you don't back off and go to the full, you try and complete the full and a half, and you land on your knees in the full and a half, you wind up getting a larger deduction, and so it's just a smart move. As you know, Manka not happy with herself as she came off the floor, but still a good run. Manka is going to be a big part of the Crusaders as the rest of the season goes on, kind of being that senior tumbler at the end that you try and use as an anchor moving into the team event. As we're gonna wait on the scores for the tumbling passes, but well, you want to talk about team event? You're going to have an entire grouping of ladies on the floor, 24 ladies on the floor for each team. You're going to see a little bit of everything. You're going to see acros being built. You're going to see tumbling passes. You're going to see tosses.
Yeah.
You're going to see pyramids. And it's a fast-moving element that we're going to do our best to give you the rundown of what's going on.
Yes.
But a lot of judging goes on in the middle of this, so there's going to be plenty of time to take a look at replays. As you know, with the scoring coming up, you know, it looks like UMHB is definitely going to have a little bit of a deficit. And in these moments of deficit, I know you didn't spend a lot of time being behind going into the team element, but when you were behind and going into the team element, how is it that you mentally prepare your entire team? We've talked about moments where you yourself in an element, coming off of you know, Baylor hitting something crazy, you go out there and got to do your job.
Yes.
What does a coach say in this moment?
Yeah, so I think it's always good to just like reinforce and know that you've been training for these moments for your whole life even. All the girls here had done something prior to college and prior to acrobatics and tumbling. And so to think that you're about to just go out and do the last event at a meet that where there might be a little bit more of a gap between them and Baylor right now, but to just go out there and from their point of view, from UMHB's point of view even, just to go out there and have fun, because team event is a really fun event. And so to just take it one skill at a time but go all out on these skills, because you have nothing else to lose. You just leave it all on the floor and go out there and have a good time. I think that was the biggest thing last year with our team, was just to have fun with it. So.
Oh gosh, yes, you guys, and you can tell the teams that are having fun on the floor, and again, a team event especially is so momentum driven.
Yeah.
If you hit the first couple of difficult elements, you can feel the excitement build as it goes
Yes.
on. Whereas, you know, you guys have faced teams before where they struggle on a couple of elements, and then you can just kind of feel almost a sense of dread that builds as you move towards the end.
Yeah.
Because this is not just about technique. This is 3 minutes of intense acrobatics and tumbling. I mean, yeah, your heart rate is at 170 plus for
Yeah.
3 minutes. That's difficult to maintain intensity the whole time through.
Oh yeah, most definitely. It is one of those things. There's so much going on the mat at once, so sometimes it's really easy to just kind of see it and then not really think too much into how hard each person on the mat is working. If you watch one singular person and just trace them as they move from one thing to the next thing and how much time they have to even breathe in between those things, there is so much going on. And from each athlete on that mat to have to come together and know when they're going to breathe, know when to cheer on their teammates, because that's another thing, to just kind of take yourself out of your own head. Sometimes you need to yell for your teammate that's going right before you. And so that was just, those are one of those things that it comes with time too. The more and more, and this team event gets drilled and drilled and drilled. I know from UMHB's perspective, I'm sure from Baylor as well. And so to find kind of your routine within the routine of what you're thinking about, who you're paying attention to, what you're doing in the moment, when you need to focus in and do your job, and then celebrating whenever you see others do their job. And then, like you said, the momentum continues to build, and by the end, and you're doing your dance, and everyone, you know that it was a hit routine. That's always the best feeling. So truly, these moments, the team event, it's one of those things that, like you said, can gain momentum. It can lose it quick, but when it gains the momentum, and that's just the most fun.
As Baylor's going to start with a 109.24 possible start value.
Wow.
UMHB starting with a 100 possible start value. You know, and so the total start value for Baylor this event is going to be 298.79, and University of Mary Hardin-Baylor 282.50. But looking at the scores in the tumbling, the duo pass for Baylor 9.350, UMHB 7.150. In the trio pass, Baylor 9.100. Baylor 8.250. In the trio, 7.250 for Baylor, 7.550 for UMHB. In the aerial for Baylor, 9.70 for UMHB, 9.225. In the six element, 9.925 for Baylor. Wow, what a run. For UMHB, 8.925. In the open pass, Baylor 9.825. UMHB 8.075. So the total for the tumbling, Baylor 55.150, UMHB 49.175. So right now the running total for Baylor 178.350, UMHB 168.475. So UMHB with a little ground to make up if they're going to come back. Obviously, not only do they have 10 points to make up in the total score, but they also have about 10 points less in total start value.
Yeah.
And so now Baylor with a start value of 109.24 is going to be the Baylor Bears, as the Bears' entire team steps onto the floor. And boy, lot to watch here, as there's something going on everywhere. It looks like they're going to set up for the pyramids to start off with. We've got a couple of backbend bases, four backbend bases all the way across,
yep,
which we didn't see Baylor do this throughout the event. So this is a new element for them here in the team event. Boy, what a time to pull out a brand new element.
Yeah, most definitely.
As music's beginning, 2 minutes, 45 seconds on the clock for the Bears. Got all of your middle bases, and hopping up are your tops.
There we go. Everyone looks really solid up there.
Even got a little bit of dancing.
Really great straddles.
Boy, really good on the straddles. They're going to drop down. And you've got an entire crew on the side in those yellow shirts, yelling and screaming, trying to bring the energy. Boy, lots of standing tumbling passes.
There we go. You're looking for synchronization there, which they all had. Standing full. Very difficult skill to do.
Standing full is incredibly difficult skill. No momentum in doing the full. Going to go into 3 simultaneous tosses right in the middle of the floor. Boy, a great toss. All 3 across.
Very clean. Got some cross tumbling going.
Crisscross tumbling pattern. See this a lot. Several fulls. Got to kick out into a full and a half. Another set of full and a halves. Full right in front of us.
Have to reset right there. There was a little bit of a bobble. Toe pitches for the acro element.
Boy, half round all the way across after the toe pitch. Into the strict press all the way across.
A little bit of bobble back there in the back right.
As we're going to set up for a different element. Wow, impressive here as some drop off, some move into a new element. 3 great handstands. Little bit of a bobble. Nice job maintaining it, though.
Very
as
good.
two go into that full overextension, one drops off into the straddle.
Ooh. Good adjustment there.
And then here's this pair right
we go.
again. Big smiles on their faces. Boy, did it, thumb tape just came flying off. I was afraid that was a two. Thank goodness it's not. More tumbling coming across. Couple back handsprings into a full and a half across with the three. The
Front
duo with the full and a
half.
half.
Everyone stayed on the mat. Very
Full
good.
from this trio as they're going to go into the dancing portion, finish it off as Baylor's about to wrap up a really good event for them. And a great job from the Bears in their team element. Boy, a lot of energy all throughout.
Yeah.
Really, I was really impressed with the tumbling that happened this late in the event.
Oh yeah, most definitely. It just goes to show the athleticism and all of the work that they put forth to be able to withhold that tumbling section at the very end after everything had already gone. Your heart rate's pumping, you're tired, but you still pull through at some of these really difficult passes, and everyone was on their feet for that last tumbling run too, so that was great.
Seemed like the most difficulty they had was in the standing tumbling. And I think part of that was because of the difficulty they had in the standing tumbling.
Yeah, I mean, standing tumbling is one of those things that it's already hard to get that start value. That's one of the things you have to push yourself in order to gain. They did a good job with their synchronization in it, I will say. Maybe some form that the judges will get them on. I saw one of the cross-tumbling passes early on, kind of had a little fall, hand touch to the ground. Nothing that was out of, nothing super serious, but it was recovered really well going into the acro section.
So you had the standing back tuck full was really impressive.
Yeah, right here in the front.
Yeah, and so then they go into it once again. A little bit better this time. They had one hand touch at the first run through, and then this one, no hand touches there. So they move into this toss. Really nice toss here. I believe that this was two full twists with the back tuck. Or excuse me, back layout.
Yeah, it was a double full.
Boy, really nice on the double full, and great synchronization.
I was going to say, from 3 different groups doing a double, that's very impressive.
And now this cross pattern of tumbling back and forth. So we got a couple back handsprings into the full and a half, and then they're going to step out and go back into the full.
Yep.
And it got a little bit out of sync, boy, and with so much going on, you can see why. Of course, they land at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing on the other side.
Yeah, and the synchronization is one thing to be super proud of. That's one of the hardest things. There's music playing, there's people cheering. So in order to know what you're doing, know what the person next to you is doing, and try to time it up so perfectly, they did a great job with that.
I mean, so much action going on across this mat. It looks like a huge mat. So this is where that hand touch happens, and we saw the exact same thing. On these step outs sometimes, you have that front foot, when it lands, it hits awkward and almost rebounds back at you.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've seen that several times. This was something that was new, and I thought was really interesting and cool. So they all go up into the acros. They're going to do the half round, and then they're all going to do the strict press. But then only some of them are going to come down. Typically, you see everyone come down at once. Just another cool little addition.
Yeah, Baylor did really good with kind of their creativity in this, with girls coming down, keeping that little triangle formation right there.
And they're going to move into a little bit of it. So there's going to be a little bit of a bobble at the back left. They do a good job of maintaining it. They drop down into the straddle. Other two athletes go into that overextension, toes pointed right at you. And then, boy, right in the middle, doing that incredibly difficult element once again. As you're already seeing between a senior and a freshman, you're already seeing that that chemistry develop that really makes things special when you get into it.
Yeah.
And then more cross tumbling. Continuing with the tumbling, and Callan, you've got to be exhausted by this point, right?
Most definitely. But these girls also, once you hit your skills, like you said, the momentum is moving, and when you know that this is one of the last things you have to do, you give it your all, and that's what they did here, and they did a really good job.
So wrapping up, just 2 more tumbling passes before the dancing portion of the event. And you've got 3 in, once again, in the creativity, 3 that are staggered, 1 in front, 2 behind in a much wider pattern. Typically you see it a tighter trio pattern. So a little bit off of synchro there, but nothing too much to blink at, especially when it's slow-mo.
Yeah. I know. The judges are having to catch this in real time, and when there's so much happening on the mat, I don't know how they do it, but I know that there are judges that are almost specified to different sections of the mat in order to judge it, and so that's how they do it. But for me, watching it, trying to watch it all at once and take it in all at once, it is a lot, but the girls did awesome.
They did
so.
Absolutely awesome, especially for the first heat here, or first meet, excuse me.
Yeah.
As now with a start value of exactly 100, the Crusaders are going to take the floor, looking to get a little bit of energy from the crowd as Baylor had an entire grouping on the side cheering for him. UMHB's just going to have a couple. Looks like we're going to set up to begin with some tosses. We're going to go into some tumbling.
Yeah.
Thumbs up from Coach Scotto. Start off with the tumbling.
Really good 1.5s there.
Into the toss. 3 tosses. A little bit of a step on the back left, but moving into more tumbling. Went really close.
Yeah. Good 1.5 from Maya over there. Good fulls.
Boy, really
Very
nice
good
tumbling for the
1.5.
Crusaders. Hey, Riley Gray came back and did a second tumbling test immediately. That's impressive.
Very. From that freshman, Riley Gray. Moving into Acros right now. A climb up.
Big smile from Chloe Drew in the middle. They're going to go into the strict press.
Really great strict presses from the girls.
Really great indeed. Going to go into some standing tumbling as well as some running tumbling across the front. Oh, excuse me, it's not going to be all standing tumbling.
3 to fulls back there in the back.
Boy, full into a full. Hey, how about 3 in a row?
3 tucks.
Full tucks with the dab from Sarah Williamson. Boy, that was impressive to continue the momentum.
Walking to the top up here. Over to a lib. While there's some standing tumbling setting up on all sides. Coming in from that side. Cartwheel tuck full to a standing tuck. Very well done.
Good job from the Crusaders. Moving into the pyramid section now. We're going to have a thigh stand on the far back. 3 back bend bridges.
Very good.
Boy, really good. Boy, fighting on the thigh stand. A good job fighting on the thigh stand. Had a brand new mid in Savannah Hall, a freshman in the middle there. Good job from Hall.
Yeah, on a bridge pyramid too. That's difficult in of itself.
Toss from the Crusaders. Boy, a couple of good tosses. Now cross tumbling with a couple of fulls. 4.5, 4.5.
4.5 from Maya Minka.
Another
right
4.5.
Really good fulls, good synchronization.
Boy, 4.5 from Jacqueline. Good job there. 4.5 from Jenna Hall. Boy, really good. Crusaders. Boy, gonna row it on in. Katie Breckler, always the dancer in the middle.
Really
and a
fun
good job
dance
from
there
the
at the end.
Crusaders. Really good there at the end.
That was a really strong team event for the girls, I would have to say.
I thought it was. I thought it looked super clean, especially on the tumbling. I got to tell you, and it's one of those that, especially with so many new people, and I don't mean to continue to beat this in the ground, but having to replace so many key elements from the team last year, it really felt like the tumbling element especially, there was a lot of nerves, and they kind of dissipated here. You saw some incredibly difficult elements that the Crusaders struggled with during the tumbling event. You saw them nailing it here. I thought that was great.
No, I agree. That you can definitely tell a lot of these girls just settled in at this point. Like once they got going, the music started, you could just tell the change from the tumbling event to now and how successful they were. That was a really, really great job.
And I think something great to build on as they move forward.
Yeah.
You know, obviously overcoming 20 points is going to be near impossible. Not saying it can't happen, but you know, really impressive to see the Crusaders come out, put on a great team event. And here was a lot of great tumbling. There was one at the beginning that I got really nervous on. There's a couple of Crusaders on about the second pass got super close to each other, but did a good job of maintaining their composure and not losing it. As here they move into the Acro, and they're going to go 5 strict presses across. I'm always impressed with the strict press because you think about it. Even if let's say you take a barbell, and you take a barbell when weight is spread out horizontally, it's easier to handle. When weight is vertical, like all of these ladies right here, take a 45-pound barbell, hold it vertical, and then just try and press it straight up.
Yeah.
It's really difficult and requires a lot of strength, a lot of stability. I'm always so blown away, impressed by it. Right here, boy, some really good tumbling. As I'm really impressed by the bottom left of your screen. We're going to see 3 back tucks back to back to back.
Yeah, there was a little bit of some inconsistency in that front group. They did a cartwheel tuck full, which this is a new pass for UMHB as a whole for standing tumbling. Cartwheel tuck full into a standing tuck, connected, and there was some timing issues. There was a little bit of some scooch backs after that tuck full, so it led to a little bit of timing, but again, first meet of the season, they're ready to continue building from here. So absolutely,
as really saw from both teams, you saw what makes them so good and so special. You also saw the areas in which at the end of the year they're going to clean up, and you just look and you go, man, how are they going to lose? I think that's kind of the impressive part of this, is knowing how much better these teams are going to continue to get. Even right now, as both teams set up actually to both give themselves pretty good scores, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And to think about in all of the years of doing Acro, where we were at our first meet was nowhere near where we were at the end of the season. By the end of the season, this routine feels not like nothing, I wouldn't put it that way, but it at least feels a lot easier. And like I said earlier, getting into the routine of the routine where you can breathe and look and cheer for your friends, and it just feels a lot more natural. And you can tell right off the bat, these girls did a really good job of being in the moment, but that's just going to go up from here. So absolutely, as we pointed out there, right in the middle of the floor was Savannah Hall, a freshman. Yeah.
Boy, and how about your first action on the floor? She'd been on the floor this whole time, but boy, as a mid-base with Sarah Williamson on top of you,
oh, yeah.
That's a pretty big moment to get in the middle of. She did a great job. And this is where I'm really impressed. I thought that these tumbling passes were absolutely outstanding.
I agree. You can see Maya coming down the middle right there. Really great form on that 1.5. Have another 1.5 right there from Riley Gray, it looks like, that freshman. Really good timing here.
A couple of back handsprings into a full, and then a 1.5. Really good there from Jackie McGuire.
Yeah, that was really, really fun.
Jenna Hall, yeah, absolutely. And then the Crusaders come rowing the boat into the middle. Boy, and so just a great meet to open the year with. I think as it stands, looking at, obviously there's going to be deductions and whatnot. I mean, the Bears in position to probably score somewhere around a 270, which is well within what they do all the time.
Yeah.
And we still saw some bobbles, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of, again, when you're the reigning champs, when you're the 9-time reigning champs, you're always putting everyone on notice. Hey, by the way, here's what we've done.
Yeah.
When you see this first, people are going to be watching this saying, what are the Bears doing?
Yeah.
Say, okay, what are they doing? And then you go, okay, can we match that? And it becomes a mental game as the rest of the season goes on. Hey, if we think we're trying to beat them for the national championship, are we able to do that?
Yeah.
Like, hey, by the way, I just saw a young lady slide into the splits while holding someone over her head. Like, can we do that?
Yeah.
And if not, where are we going to make up ground?
Yeah,
with the Crusaders, obviously the Crusaders in an interesting position, as the Crusaders have both the overall and the Division III in mind.
Yeah.
Overall, how do we continue to advance? And Division III is kind of the same thing, like what the Bears are doing. Can people catch up?
Yeah.
So scores for the team event: Baylor scores a 97.890. UMHB scores an 86.890. So Baylor is going to take the overall victory, 276.240. UMHB 255.335.
Yeah.
So Baylor with the victory, like we talked about, 276, well within what we usually expect, even with a couple of bobbles. UMHB 255.335. I think a little bit under what they were hoping for. I think UMHB was probably looking for something around maybe that 262, 264 range.
Yeah.
But still, 255, boy, it feels weird to say respectable score. 255 is an incredible score.
It is. It is. It is something for the girls to be proud of. They've, worked really hard, and it is the first meet of the season. So I think this is a really great starting point for them, and to just continue building from here.
Well, we've got a senior night here for UMHB as they're going to honor these incredible seniors. We saw so many of them. Baylor takes the victory, 276 to 255. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I'm Kyle Shipp, and I am greatly outshined by the wonderful Callan Joyka. Callan, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be with you for the rest of the season, but I'm going to step away. I'm going to give you over to the PA announcer, Jerry Pate. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Go Crew.
Next, number 5, Maya Manka. Maya is a 4-year veteran from Prosper, Texas. She is graduating in May with a degree in exercise physiology. Maya's favorite memory is the day she met Madison Lewis. Maya is a 7-time D3 event champion and also qualified for 3 NCATA National Championship event finals. Maya is joined on the floor by her dad Ken, mom Tracy, and brother Maddox. Ladies and gentlemen, Maya Manka. Next, number 14, Lucia Duran. Lucia is a 3-year veteran from Spring, Texas. She is graduating in the fall with a degree in English. Lucia's favorite memory was running into the ocean after the win against Hawaii Pacific. She is joined on the floor by her parents, Gilbert and Elisa Duran. Ladies and gentlemen, Lucia Duran. Next is number 16, Kristen Johnson. Kristen is a 4-year veteran from Kingwood, Texas. She is graduating in May with a degree in public relations. Kristen's favorite memory is turning into meets with the team and getting to meet some of her very best friends. Kristen won an NCATA D3 tournament event final in synchronized pyramid. She is joined on the floor by her parents, Richard and Amy Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, Kristen Johnson. Next is number 19, Sarah Williamson. Sarah is a 4-year veteran from Plano. She is graduating in May with a degree in exercise physiology. Sarah's favorite memory was both of the Cruise Division III championships. She is an 8-time D3 event final champion and has also qualified for 3 NCATA National Championship event finals. Sarah was also named Division III Specialist of the Year and NCATA Freshman of the Year during her tenure. She is joined on the floor by her mom, Cheryl, and grandparents, Larry and Wanda, as well as Uncle Greg and Aunt Pam. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Williamson. Next is number 25, Katarina Wright. Kat is a 2-year member of the Acrobatics and Tumbling team from Louisville. She is graduating in the fall with a degree in psychology. Katarina's favorite memory is running into the ocean after the team beat Hawaii Pacific in Hawaii. She is the D3 event final champion in trio pass. Katarina is joined by her mom, Sulaine, and dad, John. Ladies and gentlemen, Katarina Wright. Next is number 28, Chloe Drew. Chloe is a 4-year veteran writer from Belgium, Texas. She will graduate in the fall with a degree in public health. Chloe's favorite memory is eating yummy fruit bowls in Hawaii with her best friends. She was a two-time Division III tournament event final champion in 7-element Acro, and won the distinction in synchronized pyramid. Chloe is joined on the floor by her mom, Bree, and grandma, Judy. Ladies and gentlemen, Chloe Drew. Next is number 37, Jackie McGuire. Jackie is the 3-year member of the Acrobatics and Tumbling team from Flower Mound. Jackie will graduate in the fall with a degree in biology. Her favorite memory was finding out that the team made it to nationals. Jackie was also a Division III tournament event final champion trio tumbling and synchronized toss. Jackie is joined by her parents, Matt and Debbie. Ladies and gentlemen, Jackie McGuire. Next is number 38, Morgan Webb. Morgan is a 4-year letter runner from Austin. She is graduating in May with a degree in health sciences. Morgan's favorite memory is getting ready and dancing around before the meets. She is a 10-time D3 tournament event final champion and a 3-time NCATA National Championships event finals qualifier. Morgan was also named NCATA D3 Specialist of the Year in 2023. She is joined on the floor by her mom, Darlene. Ladies and gentlemen, Morgan Webb. And number 41, Allie Jasinski. Allie is a 3-year letter runner from Scottsdale. She is graduating in May with a degree in interdisciplinary education. Allie's favorite memory is taking the mat for the first time her freshman year and competing in trio tumbling for the very first time. Allie was also a D3 tournament event final champion in trio pass. She's joined on the floor by her parents, Tim and Patty, and sisters Rachel and Nicole. Ladies and gentlemen, Allie Jasinski. Please join me in a round of applause for our 2025 senior class. Thank you for your service to University of Hardin-Baylor, Cougar Athletics, and the Acrobatics and Tumbling program. On behalf of the University of Hardin-Baylor and Baylor University, thank you for attending today's meeting. I'm Jerry Payton. Be safe, good night, and God bless.